Hello, everybody. I have a very special episode. I'm back here with the New York Giants Corner show at Toilets to Titles. It's been quite a few months, but I'm back. It is time to talk Giants football. I've got a really special guest of mine here, someone who I'm a follower of on Twitter, and he's got his own YouTube channel as well. Love his content, and we were just talking behind the scenes a little bit how we're like old timers, how like we used to we remember each other from bigblueview.com. We used to be big time commentators over there in the chat. So, but I want to introduce to everybody, our fellow Giants fans. I want to welcome CGF underscore NFL. How's it going, my friend? Tell everyone about yourself, how you're feeling right now, where we can find your content.
Well, Joe, thanks for having me on. It's good to see you, and it's good to share a few moments with you guys talking about some Giants football. As you said, I got my start on the Big Blue View message board back in around 07, 08. I posted pretty regularly there. I said some controversial things.
I remembered you.
I said some good stuff, some bad stuff, and then I kind of migrated over to Twitter about 2 years ago, and then I kind of been going under the CGF underscore NFL Twitter handle, and then earlier this year, I did a show with Clouts, who is also another Twitter Giants personality. I did that for a little bit of time. Then I did the Giants Report with the Mage and Murph for a short period of time. And then I ventured out on my own under the Giants Nation podcast. And I've been doing that pretty much for the last half a year. Well, at least since the start of the season. I'm taking a little hiatus right now because I've had some personal stuff with my son. But I do plan on coming back after the Super Bowl. But great to be here. Great to talk some Giants football. So much to talk about, especially with this amazing playoff run.
Yeah, same here, man. I was like, I had actually gotten the go ahead numerous times from, my compadres here, Toilets of Titles, just to do a Giants exclusive show, and I always wound up just putting it off because of like, personal things you got to take care of. We're both adults with kids, and you got real life work and stuff, and then finally I was like, you know what, it's got to do it. I got to do it. Just got to commit to it. And so now this is it. And this is actually the first episode where just kind of like it's a reboot. I'd done a few episodes before. It's kind of a reboot. It's time to do it. I should have done sooner, but whatever. I'm glad I'm doing it now. And, I really like, CGF, I follow you because I follow a bunch of Giants content creators on Twitter, YouTube, but you're more my speed anyway, like where it's like you and I are very much on the same page. And I don't mind people that disagree with me, but at all, or differing opinions. I respect everyone's opinion, but I always like your analysis a lot. And the reasons you give, the way you think and how you see things, and I just really appreciate it a lot because I think a lot of times it's just kind of like I don't know, people even realize it, but a lot of times it's hot takes, and it just I don't know, I think just like inexperience, and instead of like people sitting back looking at a bigger picture, it's more like an instant reaction, and then that's not it's not really me, so
No,
you're more. Go ahead.
agree 1,000%. And I thank you very much for your compliment. I mean, I've always tried not to be emotional about stuff. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people today, and I think it's in many walks of life, but specifically being a Giants fan, and maybe that's part of being a New Yorker, being in the tri-state area. I'm originally from New York, but I live in the Midwest now, so I'm a little bit away from that. So I think I can bring in a little bit of a different perspective in regards to the Giants. But yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, Dave Gettleman. You go down the list. Jerry Reese. I was having an argument about Evan Neal today. How I feel that maybe
these are like hot topics.
you know,
It's like hot wire topics, man.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's for me. If you are parroting what everyone else is saying, you're not doing your job. If you have
Yeah,
an opinion, if you have a take, even if it's unpopular, and believe me, I've had plenty of unpopular takes. I've had people block me. I've had people come out and say, "Oh, CGF, you're crazy. You're on drugs, whatever." I believe that if you have a feeling about something, you
yeah,
have to say it. And I said at the beginning of the season, I said Daniel Jones is a franchise quarterback. I also said the Giants were going to win 9 to 11 games. I was on the bottom of that
yep,
prediction, but I felt based on the talent and the coaching improvement and Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley playing for contracts that I felt like the Giants were ready to make that jump. A lot of
same.
people said 5 to 7 wins. I think a lot of people were surprised how well they did this year. And me personally, I'm not surprised because I think the talent was always there.
I'm with you. And I just want to give a shout out to Joey Arici. It goes by the Twitter handle at Drop the Leash JC. He's actually another member here at Toilets to Titles, and he was supposed to be he's the co-host of the show. He just wasn't able to make it tonight
Yeah.
because he's under the weather, and so we were gonna be doing the episode, and so he's just not able to make it. Joe, I know Joe is at home right now. He's feeling under the weather, but I know he's feeling probably not as bad because his Giants. He's one of the in-house Giants fans here at 12 and Titles like me. I know Joe's got to be kind of on cloud nine, just like we all are with performance with the rebirth of our Giants. I want to put it that way, with the rebirth, because it's not just about this playoff, this season. I feel so good about the season going forward. I hear you, man. Man, absolutely, Joe. We're going to do it next week, buddy. Absolutely. And but I'm with you, man. Like I'm always unafraid to. I'm always afraid to. I'm sorry. I'm always not afraid to give my opinion. I don't like this. Like I'm 51 years old.
Mhm.
Uh, like I don't get into it with people anymore. Like I'm just like anything that's like less strife. I walk away from strife. So I'll give
Yeah.
my opinion, then I'll leave or whatever, and then I'll give like a thumbs up to other people who reply who I agree with and stuff like that. And but I definitely am one for my own opinion, and I'm with you, man. Like I've got my own opinions that are not as negative on Dave Gettleman as some other people,
Yeah.
or even Jerry Reese, and I think these people should have been let go or fired when their tenures ended. I don't have a problem with that, but I just saw like a lack of like any type of acknowledgement in terms of like talent that was brought or accomplishments.
Yeah.
But Daniel Jones, yeah, man, like I'm with you, man. I saw, and we'll get it. I don't want to spend too much time on him just yet because
Yeah.
we want to talk about the state of the team, our feelings, just the playoffs. We're CGF. We're relevant. It's not just relevant.
Yeah.
It feels good. Like but Daniel Jones, like I love the guy. Just like I loved the guy pretty much from the get go. Like I was saying off screen earlier, since that Tampa game, like I'm like this guy's got it. And I'll get into that a little more later. But it's just good to be a Giants fan right now. And it's when Gettleman took over, and I wanted that roster turned over. I'm like, we need to start fresh. The old era of Giants, the Coughlin Giants, are gone.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to him, like, do it now, so in a few years we can have a next generation team of Giants, new Giants to root for. New success, new legacies that are created. And who knows? Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe it's like 25-year drought, but you
Mhm.
don't know until you start. And so here we are a few years later, and we've got like these great foundational pieces to hopefully build off. We'll see what happens with Jones and Saquon and free agency this year. But I think I just have a good feeling that things are going to go our way
No,
in
I
that
agree.
regard.
No, I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And I can give you an example. I like to use this example because I'm in the Midwest. The Chicago Bears, which are about 100 miles to my south, they have an ownership, the McCaskey Group. And
Hmm.
you look at what they've done since 1985, and you look at every year, they are up and down, up and down. I think they made
Yeah.
Super Bowl in '06. They made the championship game in I think 2010. The
Hmm.
team, in my mind, that team, or 2012, that team doesn't have a dedicated ownership that wants to get it right. I think as a Giants fan, and so many people have given John Mara and Steve Tisch such a hard time, we have owners who care. I wrote John Mara a letter last year, a heartfelt letter last year. He wrote me back.
I
He
thought about
will,
doing that.
he
Hmm.
will pay attention. You write a letter to 1925 Giants Drive,
I've heard.
in East Rutherford, New Jersey. He will answer it if he will. So
Just like his dad.
yes, and I think he learned from his father how to be an owner, how to be a good owner, how to care. Because really, at the end of the day, it's us. It's the fan base who makes the Giants successful. Because without the fans, you don't have a team and you don't have a franchise. So I think where we are right now, looking at the Giants, at least from my perspective, we're in a better place. I think we're coming out of the tunnel, and I think we're coming out, going up the hill on Route 3, doing a circle around New York skyline. I think we're out of that Lincoln
Bright
Tunnel
lights.
darkness, and I think we're headed towards the promised land, but let's see what happens. It's really exciting times.
That's a great analogy, man, because you come out of the tunnel and it's kind of like Route 3. It takes you out of the Lincoln Tunnel into New Jersey or vice versa.
Yeah.
And but as soon as you come out of the Lincoln Tunnel, you turn around like this big loop, and real quickly you've got like the bright lights of New York City right in front of you. I love that analogy. That's awesome,
I was
man. But
just
it's
thinking
true.
of
Like
it.
it was quick. It
Yeah.
was quick, but I know I loved it, man. Off the top of your head, that is sharp. And but it's true because it really just happened kind of suddenly, and for I think for many, really unexpectedly. And I'm with you, man. I actually was on. I was on Giant Zone right before the season started. Another great show. Two really
Yeah, I
good
was on.
guys.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I remember. And and I gave my prediction too for the record. And it's funny because, and also Joe, Joe Iarici, the other Giants fan here, who's going to be my host on the show normally. Um, we also had an episode. We did our picks too, and it's funny. When I did my picks, we went game by game on both my episode with Joe and Giant Zone, and I came up with 10-7. And it wasn't like I looked at the roster as necessarily as 10-7, but I did see the roster as better than a 4 or 5 win team with the right coaching. And I'm like, you know what? I think this coaching staff is going to be phenomenal. I do believe in Brian Daboll, even though he's never been a head coach before. I believe in the dude because I love the guys he's picking. I love that he got Wink Martindale as his DC, and he got Kafka, who's never been an OC, but he was a QB for Andy Reid. You rarely miss with Andy Reid. He got those two guys as his coordinators. I'm like, this looks really good to me, and I think these guys are going to work with the talent that they have, which I think is better than most people think, and that they're going to, they're basically going to do what Joe Judge said he was going to do, but didn't do, and that is they're not going to try to squeeze, round pegs into square holes.
No.
And so, hey, man, I had 10-7. It was 9, 9-7-1. So
Yeah.
I'll give myself a pat on the
Yeah.
shoulder for that one.
Pat on the back.
Absolutely, we
No,
deserve it, man. We
no,
deserve it.
no. We were one of. I think there's only a handful of people who felt this team was going to be a winning team this year, and I
Mhm.
think what when you were talking about Joe Judge, I think Brian Dable is what we hoped Joe Judge would be.
Yeah.
Looking back, I was very impressed with Joe Judge. He came out. He was very inspiring. He said all the right words, but that there was something missing. I always felt in the back of my mind there was something missing about him because he seemed too polished. He seemed like oratorially, like,
He repeated the same phrases
yeah,
over and over, and I noticed it by like week 2 as well of his
yeah.
tenure. That is.
No, I mean, I was very excited about him, but it turned out, and I talked about this, that I felt like he was a very adept actor. And what we have right now is the real deal, the real McCoy.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
having that depth and having that experience, because they kind of went to the same places. Dable was in Alabama, and he
Yeah.
had some experience. In other, I think where else was he? He was also, I think he was in with the Browns for a little while.
He was with the
Yeah.
Browns. Yeah.
So I mean, I
Mhm.
think he had a lot of diversified experience, but he
Yes.
actually was able to build on that experience and bring it
Mhm.
to the Giants. And I think especially his experience in Buffalo with his last stint there with Josh Allen, I think
Yeah.
that experience taking it to us has really helped.
Yeah. Oh man. And I don't want to like hit Joe Judge too hard or anything like. It's already done. It's been
Yeah,
done for a long time, and I did feel bad for the guy. He needed to be fired, but I felt bad for the guy because I did think he was a good guy. But I agreed with John Mara, like that. I think that Joe Judge actually has it in him in the future to be a good head coach. It just wasn't the time. He wasn't ready. But yeah, it wasn't too long into his tenure where I felt like, man, this guy like I feel like he like practices these things he says in the mirror, and he just kind of like he just repeats them over and over and over again. But I do think he was actually trying to like build a good program, and I
yeah,
think he was trying to build a foundation. But I'll tell you, CGF, I would love to see, and I know it was one of the darkest periods of Giants history. I would love to read a book on the 4 years of the Gettleman tenure. What
yeah.
was going on there with Gettleman ownership? Because I know, and I like the owners a lot too,
Mhm.
but they also had specifically Mara was getting his hands in there, was getting his hands in there, and I think that was a big part of it too. And he actually kind of admitted that recently too, that he got too involved. But Gettleman, Mara, Judge, just Garrett. Who decided to hire Garrett? And I
Mhm.
even don't even want to hate on that guy. I just feel like there was like this big mishmash. But
Yeah,
you know what? That was before we came out of the Lincoln Tunnel, CGF onto Route 3, and before we got the bright lights in front of us. So,
yeah.
but it's good to rehash where the hell we just came from, and it was friggin' hell. It was like going back to 2016, and that
Yeah.
blowout against Green Bay and the infamous boat trip and everything. It's been a dark tunnel, man.
It's
It really has, and it's not like for some other programs, like other teams who I won't name, that have been like have had like decades and decades and decades of failure. But for us, we got used to Super Bowl championships. It felt like it, man. It did.
yeah.
But
I agree with
how
you.
do you how do you feel now before we get into the Minnesota game? Well, no, I guess let's start getting into that. How did you feel about going, their chances and going into the Minnesota game, and just how did you feel as a Giants fan when the clock struck zero?
Well,
Take it away.
I will tell you guys the week before, the
I
entire
just
week.
got to close my door.
I
My
did.
dog just came in. Go ahead.
That's
I'm
totally
listening.
fine. I the week before, so the week leading up to the game, I was keeping myself off of Twitter for the most part. I was avoiding reading anything involving the Giants. I was not watching game day. I wasn't watching anything because I have this theory that I don't want to mess with the juju. I just want to kind of just stay out of it
I'm
until game time.
superstitious.
I didn't even watch the pregame shows before the game. I was like, I am not watching Terry, Howie. I'm not watching their predictions. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want anything messing with my chi, because I was going to sit there and I was going to be going into the game as positive as I could be. And watching that game and sitting there, I felt good. I felt this. I didn't feel worried. I felt a little nervous in the second half because of our earlier experience with the Vikings in the close game. But I felt that the Giants were a better team, and I felt like that we had the better quarterback
And the better coaching
and
too.
the better coaching staff. And I just think in the
Yeah.
end, the better coach and the better quarterback won, and the better team won. So when that clock struck zero, I think it was that last pass, that fourth down pass where it was a couple of yards short of the sticks. I
The
jumped
McKinney
out of my
tackle.
chair and I put my
Yeah.
arms up in the air in my basement down here, actually. I'm like, yes, because you know what? If you look at the history of the Giants tend to be all or nothing in the playoffs. They either one and done or they go
Yep.
to the Super Bowl. And I talked about this earlier on my podcast, I think at the beginning of the season. I said I had a premonition, like a dream, that the Giants made it to the Super Bowl against the Bills. And everyone was laughing at me. They were like, what are you talking about? The Giants aren't even going to win 7 games. But I had this gut feeling that this year, that for some reason, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. And obviously, I didn't put any money down on it, so I'm not going to win anything.
Nor would I.
But that's where it ends. Like, I see the Giants getting the Super Bowl, but I don't see what happens after that. So maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but
CGF, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. The Giants are going to win it again, except this time instead of wide right, the kick is going to go wide left. So I'm telling you, I can feel it, man. It feels like 2000. It feels like 2011 to me. Just in 2011, I think we were all, as Giants fans, were like, this feels eerily similar to 2007, man. And I am joking. In 2011, at least to me, like that run felt so, as it was going on, felt so damn similar to 2007. Now, me myself, I am joking around like someone. I don't actually think the team is going to make the Super Bowl. I'm not dismissing any possibility, but I don't feel like, I think now you look at the team, look at the Giants and the Jaguars, who I think are pretty comparable. They really, like, besides those two, you really got like 6 big boys. We got to worry about 3 of them. The Jags have got to worry about 3 of them. And Derpy, as Derpy's in here in the chat, really active. Derpy, thank you so much for showing up. We really appreciate it. He says, my early bold prediction actually had you going to NFC Championship against Brady, but losing. Hey, man, I love it. Derpy, I love it. But Derpy, I think you saw something up here real quick. He says the Jags were home. Derpy, I forgot. Are you a Jags fan? I forgot. I know I asked you like a week or two ago. I forgot. Let me know. I'm just curious, But we got in the NFC, we got pick your poison, the Eagles, the Cowboys and the 49ers, and these are all really, really well balanced teams. And in the AFC, you've got obviously the Bengals, defending AFC champions. You got the Bills, the Chiefs. Uh, these are all like really well balanced teams, and it's gonna be hard for teams like ourselves and the like the Giants and the Jags to run that gauntlet, as opposed to like 2007, 2011. I think the 2017 actually we won the Super Bowl, wound up being a lot more talented than people realize. And it appeared in 2008, even though we got undone by, a gunshot to the self-inflicted gunshot to the leg and some other key injuries too that people forget about. And then 2011, that was mostly a team of veterans who already won a ring.
Yeah.
So this is a young team, and that just makes me so excited because man, I'm like, we've got look at us, we've got. I feel like that. I feel like that. I feel like that GIF that's out there. It's really popular. With who's the comedian? Is it Paul Rudd? There's a GIF out there. He's like in a talk show with someone, and they're opening a bottle of champagne or wine. And he's just says, "Look at us and look at us now." It's like look where we are now, and that's why I feel as Giants fan, man. Giants fans like a year ago, man, like eh, most people were thinking, "Oh crap, we have to get another quarterback," or draft another one. Tank, we have to draft for another quarterback. Looks like we got our franchise quarterback. We can have a great weapon, and I know we don't have wide receiver one, but we have a top playmaker in Saquon Barkley if we keep him. We got a franchise left tackle. I do think Evan Neal is going to straighten out and be fine eventually. Not as good as Andrew Thomas, but I think he's going to straighten out and be fine next year. I love that pick. You look at Thibodeaux and Ojulari, who I'm worried about with the injuries. You finally have these edge rushers who are looking for. We needed a new generation of talented edge rushers, and you got them. You got Dexter Lawrence, who's an absolute, who played like friggin' Aaron Donald this year, and that's not even an exaggeration. He put up like Aaron Donald type numbers. Um, and you look at the secondary with, specifically with young guys like McKinney, even Julian Love, who I really hope they keep. Dane Belton really flashed this year. Uh, and Cordell Flott has been flashing over the past few weeks and had a key play in this game. We can talk about that a little later. But anyway, I'm just so excited about the future. And that's the thing. Like, but I'm with you. We went into this game, and I think most Giants fans felt this way, where I'm like, we have a real legitimate shot to win. And like, I wouldn't have been surprised if we lost again, like 27-24. That is a dangerous offense you're talking about. You're playing in their home field. But I did think we were, even though, they had the upper hand with the weapons, I thought we were a better balanced team. And it's something against their coaching staff, like their head coach, but I liked our entire coaching staff a lot. Like
Yeah.
this team, man, is really prepared. It's
Hmm.
really prepared. It's like, it's phenomenal. It's fantastic. Like, I don't feel like this is a team that's been making, and we're a team that really can't afford mistakes. We don't really have that type of. We've got good players, but not enough of them really. I think for like a long run. But above all, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. We are not like the Eagles or Kansas City, where you can throw an interception, don't worry about it, we'll come back. We may not. We don't have that certainty.
Yeah.
Um, but they've been pretty damn flawless.
Yeah.
Like you look at like the lack of mistakes this team has made. So I felt good going to Minnesota, but I was saying beforehand, and I meant it. I'm like, if we lose, I'm like, I'm still cool because I feel
Yeah.
like, dude, we're out onto Route 3, and we're
Hmm.
out of the Lincoln Tunnel onto Route 3, and we've got the bright lights of New York City ahead of us,
Hmm.
and we just shot out of that tunnel of darkness,
Well,
and that's how I felt. I'm like, dude, I'm pretty much on cloud nine no matter what. Like here we are, man. Like I don't. Here we are. It's like it's all good, and I just wanted to see a good performance by the young guys, but I wasn't shocked that we won either.
yeah.
And just actually getting the win, man, getting the win. It felt, damn, it felt so good. I'm like, now we're going up against the team that I really did want to face. I did want to face, and I do want to face the Eagles. And I'm not saying I expect us to beat them, but Herb Brooks, U.S. hockey coach, 1980 Olympics, had one of the best lines ever, and one of the greatest speeches ever, inspirational speeches ever. And I agree with 100%. And that is, great moments are born from great opportunity.
Yeah.
And we've got nothing to lose, like the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, like the New York Giants in 2007, going up against the undefeated Patriots in Super Bowl 42.
Hmm.
I'm like, man, I don't want the Chargers to beat the Patriots or anyone else. If we're getting to the Super Bowl, I want the Patriots, because
Yeah.
it is the biggest upset ever in NFL history, and it still is. And the glory is that much better. So if we can actually bring it to the Eagles and actually pull up an upset, it's going to be that much tastier.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And if I was talking straight to the New York Giants, if they're watching this right now, who knows if they are or not? You are what you think you are. I said that on my podcast. I believe every team has a weakness. Every
Hmm.
team. You look at the '90 Bills, the Giants in that Super Bowl were able to neutralize their K gun. You look at
Hmm.
the '07 Patriots. We found a way to beat them. At this point, you're 0-0. Everyone's on the same footing. You go in there, you believe you're the best team in the league, you will be the best team in the league. So my take is different, a little different than yours. I believe at this point, the Giants believe they can win, they will win. If they believe that the team they're playing is better than them, they will lose. It's about execution. It's about not making mistakes, and it's about, you know, following a game plan. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are on the way down right now. In my mind, I think they're on the down elevator, and we are ascending. So let's take this opportunity. Let's knock them off. Let's knock off Dallas and San Francisco, and let's get to the Super Bowl and see what happens.
Yeah, hey man, absolutely. And just the way this coaching and again, I don't expect it necessarily. I'm not expecting that. But
Mhm.
there's something about this season where it was going to the Minnesota game too, and I had the same feeling in 2011. And I felt really strong. I'm like, once our defense was healthy at the end of the year, I'm like, dude, we match up against any team. Like, I am not afraid of the Packers. I am not afraid of, certainly wasn't afraid of the Falcons. And I wasn't even afraid of the 49ers. The only team that scared me were the Saints, who the 49ers wound up knocking off because the Drew Brees Saints in his prime always killed us. And that was the only team I would have been worried about. But the 49ers didn't scare me because they had no offense besides Vernon Davis, I think was his name, the tight end. Green Bay, I'm like, dude, they have no defense. If our defense is healthy, we're going to do just fine. And once we got back to the Patriots, I'm like, this team is not the 2007 Patriots. I'm like, I know we're better than this team, and we should win this game. And even though we were underdogs betting wise, I think most people felt like we were actually better in 2011. But in 2011, 2007, I didn't. I had the feeling I'm like, oh, let's just finally get a playoff win with Eli as quarterback. Let's just please get at least one win, which we did against Tampa Bay. And then each successive win after that, I was shocked. Dallas was shocking. That was shocking to me. And I'm like, man, if we could beat them, I think we can beat anybody. Not that I expected it. 2011, when we got there, I'm like, I did feel like we were like the best team at that point when our defense was healthy and Eli was cooking, and I mean cooking with his wide receivers. People don't remember. I mean, that team doesn't even sniff the 2011 playoffs if it wasn't for Eli and his wide receivers, and putting up like at least 30 points a game.
Bruce.
They held everything down until the defense got healthy. Eli had an elite year. He was just a shade under 5,000 yards, and Hakeem Nicks had like well over 1,000 yards. I think Cruz had like almost 1,500 yards his first full year. Manningham was there, and some other good weapons too. But this year I'm like, it's kind of like 2011. Like 2011, like I expected to win, but I also felt like I can't see this season ending.
No,
And that's how I feel about this season is that it's not that I really expect us to, even beat the Eagles, let alone the 49ers and the Cowboys, and let alone making it to the Super Bowl. It's that I just can't, I can't feel this season just ending just yet.
no,
It's been such a positive. Everything has been so positive.
no. Like I said, there's a different feel. And I've been around, like you. I've been around since the late '80s. I've gone
Mhm.
through the tail end of that dynasty. I went through the Kent
Yep.
Graham, the Dave Brown era. I went through the Kerry Collins era. I
Danny
went through
Cannell.
like Danny Cannell. I went through the entire Eli era. I've been around the block long enough to know the feelings when you have something. It's kind of like 2000 with Kerry Collins when we went into that
Yeah,
NFC
I
Championship game
loved him.
and obliterated the Vikings. I mean, this team
Mhm.
has that feel, but it really comes down to, and I was talking about this on Twitter today, and I got killed when I said my biggest worry about the game on Saturday, and I know we'll talk about it, is Evan Neal. And I love Evan Neal, but he's been
Yeah.
struggling, and
Yep.
I think they almost set a record of a Philadelphia Eagles sack record, or maybe even been an NFL record
Yeah.
for amount of sacks for a team. I think
Mhm.
this week they're focusing on scheming on that side of the ball. They are going to try to overwhelm Evan Neal. So
I would.
I came out and I said maybe it would be a good idea to put Neal on the bench and start someone else. Maybe move Gates over to tackle because he has some experience with that. I got
Mhm.
totally destroyed for that comment and I
Yeah.
deleted it. But I was trying to
Don't
make a
delete.
point. And I was trying to make a point. And the biggest point I'm trying to say is that the Giants can win this game, but they need
Mhm.
to protect Evan Neal.
I agree with you. I think the weakest link in that offensive line now, and I'm not, is Evan Neal, and
Mhm.
he's a big after Andrew Thomas. He's got the most promise,
Yeah.
but he's not there yet. He plays a really key position. Like the interior of the offensive line was getting blown up for like the first half of the year, but I think part of that was I think part of it was we're also getting injuries there too. Not that these guys were great on paper, but Ben Bredeson was looking really good at the beginning of the year for the first few games. He wound up getting injured. Um, who else? I was it.
Amue's
He
been
did have
gone the whole season.
Yeah,
We have
unfortunately, and he was looking really good in the
yeah,
preseason, like in terms of finally developing into like his pass protection skills because he was already an awesome run blocker. Zudu, the third round pick, another awesome run blocker, but he needs more time, but still he flashed, and so the interior of the offensive line was getting blown up, and I'd say over the past, I don't know, maybe 6 games, it's been a lot better. But I've noticed about and I think it does coincide too with this other change. Well, I'm so glad Nick Gates is back. I'm so glad he's back. Um, but the improvement in the interior line, their performance, I think coincides also with Daboll and Kopka running the offense through Daniel Jones now,
yeah.
and not just Saquon.
Hmm.
And that they're giving basically took the reins off. They're like, you understand the offense now. You'll go to work, and he's been phenomenal,
Surgical. Yeah,
surgical for at least the past few weeks. And I think I noticed like, and that's important because a quarterback and the way his manipulation of the pocket this year is light years of where it was even last year. Like he looks like a really good seasoned pro with his pocket manipulation now, and that helps out. That does help out the offensive line. Where where they're not gonna look as bad, and he's buying himself more time for either a good throw or even saying, "Screw it, nothing's open, I'm out of here." So
yeah,
it makes the O line look better. But I think you make a 100% valid point that the weak link there is the Evan Neal. And listen, everyone, I love Evan Neal. I was so happy when we grabbed him at number 7.
hmm,
He was the obvious pick to me. And me myself, I agree with CGF. I'm not criticizing Evan Neal. It's just an honest assessment of where we are with him right now. And I think he can be a lot better next year. But if I'm Philadelphia, listen, they've got monsters up and down that
yeah,
offensive line. They do. I mean, they could eat up the interior of the offensive line too. But I'm targeting Evan Neal absolutely because
yeah,
he's just not there yet. But he's a good dude, hard worker, very smart, and I think he's gonna eventually. I mean, like next year, be fine. But we'll
yeah.
see we'll see. Then again, we got great coaches, so we'll see how they scheme around that. So that game, it felt so damn good. Flowers you want to give to players, Giants players from that game. Just off the top of your head, talk about whoever you want in any order you want, whatever comes to your mind, CGF.
Hodgkins. I mean, that pass that Jones had to Hodgkins, I think it was on that
The
sideline.
Amani tumor toe tapper.
Yeah, it just reminded
Oh,
me, like, honestly, like Daniel Jones obviously would get the first bouquet of flowers from me. Saquon Barkley was running like a man possessed
hmm
in the first quarter and
Yep.
a half.
No specific order, off the top
I
of your
mean,
head.
I just like you look at the Giants when they needed to make stops, they were able to make stops.
hmm
I'm also going to go back and think about. I think that Bellinger touchdown was a key play. There were a
Oh
couple
yeah.
of things I was disappointed about, but you know what? The Giants, when they needed to make plays in that game, they did, and you can't ask for anything more, especially in a pressure.
Sign of a good team.
First playoff game for these guys. This isn't like these guys are seasoned vets. This is the first go around, and they
Exactly.
went out there and they took care of business. So
Yeah.
I would drop a bouquet of flowers on MetLife if I could, based on how
Yeah.
everybody played.
Seriously,
So
man, the team played like you said. That's the key thing, and that's why a point I try to make to people is that be excited, right, regardless of what happens in the Eagles game, because there is even. I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think we can win, and I think it's more likely we lose a close game, but the potential's there to get blown out. That's a really good team.
yeah,
That's just depth all over the place. Um, but and they've got a very good coaching staff too. But just be happy, like realize that they just got to win. This is a young team. It's you got like your veterans are even like 26 years old, like a Dory Jackson. Like that's your veteran. Like the older guys are like 25. A lot of these guys are like 22, 23 years old, and they're just looking so damn good and so damn sharp. And I wasn't seeing jitters out there. I wasn't really seeing mistakes. I mean, mistakes like I wouldn't say mistakes. Sometimes you just get beaten. There is other talent. There is talent on the other side of the field. But yeah, man, Hodgins, like, man, it's like there was someone else, and it's been going all over around Twitter because someone had made the original point. And it's funny because whenever I see a really good, clean toe tapping sideline toe tapping catch, I always automatically think, and I think most of us do as longtime Giants fans, automatically think of Toomer because that guy. I don't think anyone was ever as good as that guy. How consistently he did it.
I also thought of that play as the Manningham play from the second Giants Super Bowl when
Yeah,
Eli threw in the fourth quarter.
yeah,
That reminded me that type of accuracy, that type of catch on the sideline. It just reminded me of that Manningham play. And I will say a mea culpa, and I said this on Twitter. I totally destroyed Joe Shane in the middle of the season because I was pissed off
me
he
too.
didn't make any moves because I was like, how could you stand pat and not make any moves? What I didn't do, what I didn't really pay attention to, is all the little moves he did. Like Hodgins, obviously, is better than what we could have got. Probably better. People will probably not like this, but probably better than OBJ. You look at it like we brought him in. He's been like our MVP for the second half of the season. Fabian Moreau. Look at what Fabian Moreau has done.
Mhm.
God, you imagine
My God.
we had in the back end of our defense. Have it
Yep.
without him. I mean, he missed a little time, but he was really the cement that kept us going after
Right.
Robinson went down, and
Mhm.
it's just this team. And I just want to make one quick point about what I feel about this weekend is that you have McKinney and you also have Adoree Jackson back for week 2, and I think there was maybe a little bit of rust with them missing a little
Mhm.
bit of time. I actually think this week they should play better.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think with the Adoree Jackson, he played great this past weekend, but you have to allow for some rust. But the whole secondary played pretty well overall.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Derpy's a Steelers fan. I'm sorry, Derpy, I forgot. We were talking about a few weeks ago. He was in the chat, and no, so he's a Steelers fan. And you know what, Derpy, I'm with you, man. Let's beat the crap out of Philadelphia, out of the Eagles, and they are obnoxious. Actually, listen, I
I
want to say I am friends with I'm just going off of what people say, Giants fans who go to like Philadelphia Eagles games in Philadelphia. I've got plenty of Eagles fans, here in my area of New Jersey. I love them all. But I love them all. But I would never go to a game,
oh,
at the link. There's no way, especially not wearing a Giants
no.
jersey.
People
Hell
are
no,
people are brave. I've heard people say, "Well, we're going to go down there." Listen, I hate
not worth
Philadelphia.
it, man.
I lived in
No,
I lived in Central Jersey. I'm just going to tell a quick story. I lived in Central Jersey for a year and a half. I was in Trenton area, which is kind of like the
yeah,
border war between Giants and Eagles fans. And I
hmm
went down to Philly a lot to go out. And I hate that city. There's nothing good about that city. The
yeah,
Broad Street is disgusting. The cheesesteaks are overrated. Not to even talk about they have scoundrels coming up to you on the street asking you for money so your car is
yeah.
so
Just go to Liberty Hall, see the Liberty Bell, see the Rocky statue, and get your asses home. That's all you need to do.
yeah,
And go see the Giants beat the Eagles.
yeah.
But no, I've got fans over here who I'm going to be sending this video to afterwards. Hey guys, support the show. You're Eagles fans, so I'm going to keep. You can criticize. I'm going to keep my own criticism a little low.
They're
So
passionate. They're
I'm joking.
passionate.
No, it's cool. I respect it. I respect it, man. It's all good. I respect the passion, and listen, that's really the only team that I hate. And I'm not saying I hate the fans or anything. It's the only team I hate because I fear them because it was going back to the Randall Cunningham days. They really had our number. It's like even when we're better on paper and they're not that good, like we'll be lucky you know, if we scratch and claw a 3-point win out of against them. So they've always had our number. That's the only reason why I feel like that's the one team I just love beating because we never do.
We haven't beaten them
So
down there since 13, I think. That was the last time.
yeah,
That's been a while.
yeah,
So
and I know I think we beat them once last year and maybe once the year before that, but it was like I think they were injured too. Quarterback Jalen Hurts, whatever. It was like or 2 years ago they weren't very good either. They were like retooling, rebuilding, whatever, and it's not. But their GM is a friggin' genius. I love what Howie
yeah,
Roseman's done. And Derpy's checking again. I would never go to Philly, maybe for grilled cheesesteak, Rocky statue, and stairs in history. But other than that, I wouldn't go because of characteristics as a human. Because of the characteristics as a human. I think that's how most of the East Coast feels. I think they agree with you, Derpy. To be honest, but yeah, man. So just such a good feeling, and I'm so damn happy for Listen, yeah, Hodgins, Bellinger. I mean, and real quick, I'm sorry, I know I'm all over the place, but there's just so many good things to talk about. I shared your frustration with Shane. Maybe my frustration really just had to do with Bradbury. I'm like, man, please extend him and just make it work. I'm like, I don't expect you to bring, you know, big free agents in at all. Not, but just please keep Bradbury because my worry was, and I understood, but my worry was that if you get rid of him, even though I looked at Dory Jackson, that a move like that, could wreck the entire defense where everyone could look like crap.
Yeah,
Like the whole defense can look like crap. Like that could be the domino, just like that missing piece. Like you take out, just everything kind of falls apart. It didn't work out. You mentioned Fabian Monroe, who I'd never even heard of until we picked him up. He's been phenomenal, and most people probably haven't heard of him, but he's been the Giants' cornerback too, playing on the other side from Adoree Jackson this year, and he's been phenomenal. I'm not saying he's an island cornerback, but he's been really good, and he's been a strength, and he's been healthy pretty much the entire season. Um, Bellinger is a type of tight end that I like, where he's not like I want a blocking tight end. For me, a tight end, you got to be. You can have a guy like an Evan Ingram on one side, but I really like my starting tight ends is like you got to be able to block in the passing game and the running game.
hmm
And you know what? You got to be adept at going out. You don't have to be the number one receiver on the team or even the number three, but you got to be adept at going out and finding those spots in the defensive zone and for some key, for key receptions at key times. And just I want them to be able to count on you and have good hands. All right. So I'm not looking for 1,000-yard seasons, but give me like a good like a key like 550 yards a year, but at key times. And Bellinger's doing that.
yeah.
And it hurt when we missed him for like 4 weeks with that scary eye injury. I noticed the difference. I'm like, this dude is like, we can't afford injuries like this because we don't have depth. And he came back, and it's the offense is clicking even better than it was before he got injured. But that dude is a key pickup in the fourth round by the new regime, and I
hmm
love that dude. Love that guy.
That was one of the unheralded picks from that Gettleman trade that we trade back. Got Tony. We also got Bellinger with that trade because we got the extra fourth round pick from the Bears.
Yeah, you're right. You're
So
right. Yeah,
he's been. If you look at every Giants Super Bowl team, you look at Bavaro, you look at Howard Cross, you look at
Mhm.
Kevin Boss, you look at you look at every time the Giants have won the Super Bowl, they've had someone at tight end who they could depend on. Jake
Mhm.
Ballard's another one that comes to mind. I
Love
do,
Ballard.
you know,
What an unheralded player, man.
yeah, and I look at Bellinger, and you're absolutely right. When he left with the eye injury, the Giants' offensive line was in shambles to a certain extent because he adds
Yeah,
that blocking,
he
the
does. He
additional
helps out.
blocking that has helped out with
Mhm.
Jones protecting him. So I
Yeah.
think Bellinger is another key, a huge key. And one of the things I said this weekend, I think they should try to move him to the other side to help out with Neal because I think that could
Yes.
obviously help the situation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the obvious ones, before I get to Jones and Barkley, and Darby makes a point. I will say if Barkley isn't himself being as effective as he was against the Vikings and get hurt, you're not going to win, which is why the O line will be key to the game. You know what, Derpy? You know what, Barkley? What I really love is I think they're finally using Barkley. And Shermer did this a lot. Barkley's first year, in the second year too, but he was playing with a high ankle sprain throughout most of that second year under Shermer. They're using Barkley the way he should be used, and that is not ground and pound between the tackles. You can do that somewhat. I mean, he's a running back and he's a strong dude. He's sturdy, but they're using him more like a CMC and a Kamara. They're getting him really involved in in the receiving game. And that is, listen, I think there's a difference between, yeah, eventually you're going to get tackled by like a cornerback or a safety. A big difference between getting hit by those guys as opposed to getting hit by like two or three defensive linemen, near the line. And he can run between the tackles, but he is a playmaker. People see, in my opinion, on Barkley, and the same thing with CMC and Kamara. I think you're wrong when people just say, "Well, he's just a running back. How much can you pay for that position?" He's a playmaker playing out of the running back position. He's an elite weapon in the NFL. Just like a Tyreek Hill is, or any type top end wide receiver. I realize they can maybe put up more yards and just with you know bigger explosive plays, but he is a unique weapon who can take it to the house in any given play. and you want to get the ball in his hand in space and let him do his work. And it's even better. But when we saw, like Derpy's talking about him, in the Vikings game, is that's what I want to see personally with Barkley. Is I want to see him, just scheme this guy open, get the ball in his hands, let your playmaker do his thing. I wish
No,
we could have seen that with Tony too, because he would have been awesome in this offense. But whatever. They don't want assholes on the team, so
no, no. I mean, I understand why they had to get rid of Tony. I mean, I'm glad they got third round
I do.
pick
Yep.
for him. It hurts that he's had some success already in Kansas City. He'll probably be successful
If
there.
he's healthy,
But
he's going to be an
he's,
elite weapon.
yeah,
He's going to be, if he's healthy, he's going to be an elite weapon. I don't care if it was Kansas City or us or someone else, but I don't blame them, man. I love this. I love this team. It's like they've wanted, like they've stressed. It is smart. What is it again? Smart, the strong, smart, dependable, smart, and and strong, whatever it was. But it's like they don't want shitheads in the clubhouse, and I don't think he's up. This isn't Adolf Hitler we're talking about here, but I think he just kind of like marches to the beat of his own tune, and there was something weird going on with him now, and I don't know what it was, but I think he'll be fine in Kansas City. I'm sorry, I was talking over you, but I really wanted Tony to work out so badly.
no,
CG,
I
if I
agree.
wanted to work out so badly.
No, it's unfortunate. As a Giants fan, you want your players like you draft to stay with the team. I wasn't a big fan of the Galladay signing. That's a whole other box full of rocks to talk about. But at least he hasn't done anything to hurt us. I feel Tony at times he just kind of dogged it, and when he was on the field, he was electric. Like that Dallas game
Yeah,
last year, he was just making people miss, and it was just a glimpse
the
of
guy
what.
makes nice catches too. Like he's got really good hands
Yeah.
with contested catches. I gotta say.
And like Derpy says, I want to see, and they've started to do it. I want to see Barkley put out on the flat a little bit more because he has that
Mm,
electric ability to get outside the tackles and break, big runs. So if
yeah,
I'm looking at this week, I'm not afraid to run the ball against them because they're middle of the pack defending the run. They tried to
mm.
bring in the Dominican Sue. They've tried to make some. I think it was the other guy, the
They have a
Giants.
former Giant, I
Yeah,
think.
what was it, Joseph? It wasn't Joseph. I'm trying to remember who it is.
Linville Joseph.
Linville,
Linville
yeah,
Joseph.
Linville
That's right.
Joseph they
Yeah, yeah,
brought in.
yeah.
So
I
that's
loved him.
one of their Achilles heels. I don't want the Giants to. I want the Giants to continue to do what they're doing. I want them to
Yeah.
continue to pass first, build off that with the run. Because if we start to try to run up the middle, do the Garrett playbook, first and 10, going to go do
No.
a 2-yard quarterback halfback draw up the middle. You're going to put Daniel Jones up against the blitz. So you want on first
Yeah.
down, you want to pass first to try
Yeah.
to limit those opportunities where it's second, third down, especially a third down where they're going to be bringing the house against our weak parts of our offensive line.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm with you 100%. And it's not like this is Derrick Henry,
Yeah,
like, where you want to be, and again, it's not like Barkley can't go between the tackles, but that's not how he's highly, most effective. And just get the ball in the guy's damn hands.
yeah,
Try to get him some space. Get him running. Before the ball's even in his hands, you get the ball in his hands. This guy's ready to go. And Kadarius Toney's the same. It was the same way. OBJ was just your playmakers.
yeah.
Get the ball in your damn hands. He's an elite playmaker, and I don't care how you do it. But this is effective, and you can keep him more fresh. Like, he only had like 9 carries.
Mhm.
But the guy wound up having over 100 yards combined because he had like 9 carries for like 50 yards. He had, or maybe like 55 yards. Like he had nice yards per carry, but he also had a bunch of receptions and put up like 56 yards receiving, and he had a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he looked fresh. He looked good. So I love what they're doing now. However, all this comes down to Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I think one day Josh Allen, hopes to be as good as Daniel Jones, and he's close.
I
He's
had
close.
that conversation on Twitter this week. I don't know if you know that.
No,
I
no,
pissed
I
off
know.
a
I
lot
didn't
of
see.
Bills fans, but I do
Uh,
believe I do believe that Daniel Jones is right there with him, and and they all attacked me for it because they don't.
yeah,
Buffalo Bills fans are very passionate. I love them to death,
they
but
do. They're awesome.
Josh
Mm,
Allen is going to cost them the Super Bowl because he's Brett Favre 2.0. Great
mm,
talent, great arm, little inaccurate at times, but for the most part, he knows when to run. He's good awareness. but he throws the ball at the wrong time into a defender's hands. So
Yeah.
I'm looking this weekend. I'm looking at the AFC Championship games. Josh Allen got to take care of the ball, and that's something that Daniel Jones
Look
has.
out for those Bengals.
Yeah,
No one's giving them respect.
no, I mean the Bengals made the Super Bowl last year. They've kind of had a resurgence from the beginning of the season where they were like in the
Yep.
mud. So they're the defending AFC champion. I think they're taking them a little bit too lightly. And honestly, right now, the AFC, I know the two top dogs obviously are Buffalo, Kansas City, and then you have the Bengals who should be there too. But don't
100%.
sleep on Jacksonville. I know we'll give our predictions later, or we'll talk about other playoff
Yeah.
games. But honestly, like right now, looking at it, I don't know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. I'm just going to have that opinion until we know.
Yeah, I'm not. It's funny because here on Toils to Titles, we're doing now. We just did our first playoff roundtable this past Friday before the start of the wild card games, and we're doing our next one this Friday, 8 p.m. For the divisional games. And I had picked. I think we also gave at the time we gave our Super Bowl prediction, and I picked actually Dallas. When I said my caveat was if Dak can be Dak and not what we've seen, like on and off for the second half of the season since he came back from injury. I think they actually have what it takes to beat. They're a very well balanced team. I think they can. I think they can. They have what it takes to beat Philadelphia, and I think they have what it takes to beat San Francisco. I think they're all very close, but I think I think Dallas finally has a defense to go with, along with a pretty good offense. And but I also said on the AFC side, I picked Buffalo, but I don't feel it with Buffalo. I haven't been feeling it with them for a while. I actually wanted to pick the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, Kansas City hasn't even really entered my mind, which is surprising. But Buffalo, I haven't felt good about them for a long time. I'm like, man, I'm not that crazy about their defense, and I don't think the receivers are. Gabe Davis didn't wind up showing up this season like I think I
Yeah.
thought he would. And Dawson Knox has been really good for like the past like 6 weeks. He's finally being Dawson Knox, and unfortunately, his brother was killed earlier this season, and that obviously affected him. But
Mm-hmm.
other than like Stephon Diggs and now Dawson Knox, like their running game is still okay, but it's not been great, And I'm like, I don't know, man. You get Bengals. Look, they've been the hottest team for like the past 10 weeks. Like everyone's kind of excluding them, and I'm
Yeah.
with you. Well, yeah, we'll definitely do those picks at the end. And
Mm-hmm.
all right, so we're at the 52-minute mark.
Sure.
And yeah, Daniel Jones. Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna do a Daniel Jones episode soon, just on my own, just my own thoughts on the guy. But man, he looked phenomenal. He looked surgical. Looked absolutely in command of the offense, and the offense looks different. For the past like 4 weeks at least, because he does have command of the offense, and they have taken the reins off. And
Yeah.
he is playing. He is playing. He is elevating. People have always said like, well, he doesn't elevate anyone. And meanwhile, you've got like, I'm not knocking, the Packers or, but you'll have like people like Packers fans saying, well, who do you expect Aaron Rodgers to throw to? He's got no wide receivers. And I'm thinking like Giants fans, we're all like, hello, my response is, and I'm just being, I don't have nothing against the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, but my, snide remark would be, welcome to the club, man. Now you tell me that he's got no one to throw to. We say that pointed out to like Daniel Jones and like a young quarterback trying to grow, get his own NFL legs under him. With a crappy offensive line for a long time, weapons that on paper have looked good for the past few years. Actually, even with Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, his rookie year, like his top three receivers averaged like 9 starts each that
Yeah.
year. And it's like this guy has always had to do without. And some of the poor performance has been his fault. I'm not denying that, but dude's a young quarterback and he's trying to get his NFL legs under him. And man, to see what I thought he could be, and I think you too, CGF, we've always been, believers in this guy. To see him now playing like I think the Tubas thought he could be, precise, accurate. He does have a good arm, and I saw some stuff going on around Twitter today, like, well, he still doesn't have a very strong arm. I'm like, dude, his arm is more than strong enough. Actually, if you get some like a dependable wide receiver one who can fly down and take the top off of the secondary, you're gonna see it because we've seen it before. He throws a beautiful deep ball,
Mm-hmm.
and he is accurate. And now using his legs the way he is, I don't even care about seeing any. Listen, you break out all the stops as the playoffs, CGF, but I don't even care about design runs anymore. Just let him. If the play isn't there in terms of passing, you run it. You
Yeah,
run it. Go ahead and run it. He seems to know like when to do it and when not to.
he does, and he needs to slide more. That's one of my criticisms of him.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think
Hmm.
he's, if not top top five, top two fastest quarterbacks in the league. I think that's one of his X factors that we can have this
He's
weekend.
a big dude too.
He's a big dude, but he's got to stop trying to like truck
Yeah.
everyone. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
he,
People don't realize too, like he's actually like, listen, Josh Allen, and I am serious about the Josh Allen comparison. Like, I think that's his ceiling. I'm joking about like, Josh Allen's looking up at him now. But man, I'll tell you, I think like you get him a Stephon Diggs type wide receiver, I think he can be that good. I think he can be a little more accurate. But the dude is, I think a lot of people don't realize that because Josh Allen he's like built like a lumberjack. He's a really solid dude.
he's different
He's
body.
like six, yeah, he's like 6'5 and a quarter. Um, so is Daniel Jones. He's 6'5 and a quarter, and Josh Allen only has like 16 pounds on him. I mean, that's it's not that big. But like I said, he's just a bigger frame. He's Daniel is he's put on a lot. He's put on a lot of good muscle actually for the past years. You can see every year he comes in, training camp, and dude looks a little bigger like everywhere, and he's like ripped now. But Josh Allen, they're the same height. He's only got like 16 pounds on Daniel Jones. He's really big, and I'm not looking for him to truck anyone. He does need to slide. I actually think he does slide more than he used to,
Starting
and
to,
like yeah, he does. I like he used to really try to truck people. I'm like, I haven't really seen that. I've seen him getting more like waiting a little too long to slide and getting legally hit by the defender. Because he just waits too long. Like that scares me, but I think it's all coming into place. I really do. But yeah, okay. So the 56-minute mark. Okay, thoughts about the Eagles game? We'll go through that real quick.
okay. I think the Giants can win this game. I think it's going to come down to protecting Daniel Jones on the right side. I think
Mhm.
it's going to come down to being able to limit a couple of players, specifically AJ Brown. Dallas Goddard is going to be key, and also shutting down Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, and Kenneth Gainwell. If you
Austin
can do
Scott.
that, and you put the pressure on Quez Watkins to be the and Devonta Smith, and
Hmm.
Devonta Smith is a good player. He is. I
Hmm.
think the Giants can keep up with them, and I think they can keep it close. And maybe they'll get lucky. Maybe the weather will play a little factor. I haven't looked at the weather yet, but for the Giants to win this game this weekend, they need to continue to do what they're doing. They need to pass the ball first. They need to build the runs off the pass. They need to
Hmm.
just say at this point, no more first down H back draws. Let's just let it
Hmm.
rip. Let's protect the right side of the offensive line. They are going to blitz heavy probably, but Philadelphia is on the way down, and you want to hit them early because
Hmm.
if you get that fan base out of it in the first quarter, if they start having the doubts, if the doubts start creeping on in, maybe we're not as good as we think we are. You do that, you get them start doubting early. Those fans are going to start to get very uncomfortable, and if you're in the fourth quarter within 6 points or less, I'm putting my money on Daniel Jones. I believe he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Jalen
Hmm.
Hurts had a really good season, but Jalen Hurts is also dealing with having some excellent exemplary weapons. So Daniel Jones, I believe in my heart, is a better quarterback. And when it comes down to the money, when it's the game's on the line, and if it's close, I think he can do it. But our defense has to play better. Last week, our defense at times was very shoddy and very disappointing to me. So
Yeah.
this game, I'm looking at, if the Giants going to win, they need to be somewhere in the 18 to 25 range on points scored and points allowed, less than that, obviously. So they can do that. I think the Giants win, and they go to probably San Francisco. I don't think Dallas is going to go into San Francisco and win. San Francisco has a really good offensive line that's going to negate their pass rush. And for some reason, I feel like there's something going on there too. So maybe a team of destiny, maybe a team that's on the rise. Christian McCaffrey, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that later. But right now, Giants, Eagles, I think Giants win the game, shock the world again. It's going to be hard. It's going to be close, but
Yeah.
I think we got the right quarterback.
I think you know what? I think the key thing. Think the key thing against the Eagles is I'm not going to predict. I'm not predicting the Giants to win. I think it's if I were going to bet, I'd bet on the Eagles to win. I think it will be a good game. They have so many weapons for the. Just it stinks that the Giants really they've got a good D line, they've got a good secondary, but that linebacking core is just such a hole. And we've been able to make do for the most part when you've got when your starting linebackers are put them in any order you want. Landon Collins, who was the guy they got, the
Jalen
former
Smith.
Dallas, yeah, Jalen Smith and Micah McFadden, fifth round pick. It hurts. It hurts. And I think it's going to be too much. And they could actually gash us in the run game. Goddard scares me because tight ends really look at Hawkinson. You can't really cover everyone, but if we're going to win the game, and I don't think it's impossible at all, and I wouldn't be completely shocked if we won, like we did in 2007 when we beat Dallas in Dallas. That shocked me. I wouldn't be completely shocked if we won. I think the key thing is holding on to the ball, time of possession. Um, Last week against the Vikings, they had some long drives, including like was it a 20 play drive?
Third
I think
quarter, that's what really helped us. That
a
that
20 play drive.
yep.
And you can do that. And I think they can. I think, listen, every team's beatable. It's not like the Eagles are unbeatable. If you can do that, I think that's the key. The key thing is keeping the ball away from them. And I think this offense, listen, we don't have, besides Saquon, it's not like and Daniel, besides Saquon, it's not like we have great playmakers. But I think this offense and these coaches have been such a great job and Daniel's been so efficient. I realize Eagles defense is a lot different from Minnesota. I get it. I get it. It's just going to be a great test. But if they can do that, if they can hold on to the ball and really just methodically go down the field, they're not an explosive play offense anyway, unless Saquon takes one to the house from like 50 yards out, or Daniel. Daniel had two. People forget with Daniel a few years ago. People remember, oh, he tripped, hardy har har, turf monster got him. The dude was pulling away. What I took from that was like, okay, yeah, the turf monster got him. No one was near him. My key takeaway from that was that dude Daniel was pulling away from cornerbacks.
Hmm.
The longer he was running, the further he was getting away from him. And the next game against Philadelphia, he did have a touchdown run of like 35 yards or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like his legs, I think again are going to play. It's going to be a big deal. And just keep the ball out of Philadelphia, keep the ball away from their offense, and I think we got a pretty decent shot. I really do. But I wouldn't be surprised if we won it all. It wouldn't be shocking. It would be so beautiful. It would be so beautiful.
Yeah.
So okay, real quick, we'll wrap it up here. Give me some, because we're past the hour mark, and there's no hard end here or anything, but
Yeah.
picks for going forward, I guess for this weekend, and then for the Super Bowl.
Okay, so I think Giants beat the Eagles this weekend. I
Mhm.
think San Francisco beats Dallas. Bengals are playing Buffalo, right? Bengals are playing
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yep.
Yep. I think that's going to be a very close game. I think it's another game where if Josh Allen could make a big mistake to cost them the game, but I actually think they make it to the championship game. I think Bills
Buffalo.
survive.
Oh,
I
I'm sorry. You're picking Bills or Bengals to win in that game.
Bills survive.
Okay.
They move on
Gotcha.
to the championship game, and I think Jacksonville is going to probably put up a little more of a fight in Kansas City. Kansas City's coming off a little bit of a layoff.
Mhm.
It could be an upset there, but I actually think that Kansas City will pull that out. That sets up the dream AFC Championship game down in Atlanta at the neutral site. Bills versus Kansas City. I think Bills another crazy game. I
Mhm.
think the Bills will get to the Super Bowl, and I think the Giants will find a way to beat San Francisco and get to the Super Bowl. So I'm sticking with my pick: Giants, Bills, Super Bowl, second time, about 30 years after the original.
I love it. I love it. And like I said earlier, this time it's going to be a wide left win for the
Yeah.
Giants.
Now I could be wrong. Don't put your money down at the casino by MetLife, but
I already bet. I bet my mortgage, man. I bet my mortgage already, man. Um, yeah, no, I love it, and I think it's realistic, man. And even if it's not, whatever. But I think it's realistic. I think all of these teams have a chance, man. And the Jaguars just are so much like the Giants of the AFC. Young team, good quarterback, well coached team. Doug Peterson is a good coach, and I love finally Evan Ingram. Poor Evan Ingram finally has a head coach that's using the way he should be used. Um, but no, I'm with you, man. I give the Giants a legit shot. The I'm going to go with this week. I'm going to go with the Eagles beating the Giants in a good game. In a good game, I could see it being something like where the Giants, um, or like actually have the lead into like the middle of the fourth quarter, like the 8 minute mark, 7 minute mark, something like that. But I do think the Eagles have too much firepower on both sides of the ball. I think it's going to be a little overwhelming. And but another key thing too is that we haven't been making mistakes. Like I said, if we don't make any like fumbles, interceptions, stuff like that, and if we can keep the ball away from them, just keep sustain some long drives, I think we got a good shot. But I'm going to go with the Eagles. They're just such a well balanced team, and they've been really consistent the entire year. This isn't the Vikings, so I'll go with the Eagles in that game. Unfortunately, I'm still going to be very happy Giants fan, regardless. And then you've got the 49ers in Dallas. I'll stick with my Super Bowl prediction. I think if Dak, he's got to show that he can put two games together like like he hasn't done this year. And he doesn't have to be on fire as was against the Buccaneers. That would be really tough against the 49ers defense. But I think Dallas is a really well balanced team, and I love Brock Purdy. I love the way he's played. But there is that rookie quarterback factor.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's going to show up, but I think there's a realistic chance that, brain farts show up, and I wouldn't blame him. He's a young quarterback. This isn't Tom Brady or even Dak Prescott, who's been around for like 7 years now, 6 years. So I'm going to go with Dallas beating, in an upset, beating San Francisco. And in the NFC, I'll go with, I'm going to stick with Dallas beating the Eagles and making it to the Super Bowl. And I guess I will stick with, like I said, man, I'll stick with my prediction we talked about earlier. I'll go with the Bills beating the Bengals in a really good game. I would not be shocked at all by the Bengals winning. Would not be
Yeah.
shocked at all. I'll go with the Bills beating the Bengals and the Chiefs beating the Jaguars. I love the Jaguars. I really love how they're playing. Just I think Chiefs are just way too ahead of them though. So I'll go with the Chiefs playing the Bills in the AFC, and I'll go with the Bills winning that game and beating Dallas in the Super Bowl. But it's funny because I don't know. I'm just like I'm not completely sold on Buffalo,
No,
but
something missing.
yeah, there's something missing. There is something missing. So, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'll stick with it. But
Mhm.
all right, man. CGF, that's it, man. That's we went through it. It's been awesome having you on, man. And I don't know anything. Again, can you let people know where they can find all of your content?
Sure. I'm CGF NFL on Twitter, Giants Nation Pod as well on Twitter, and then I'm also the Giants Nation podcast on YouTube. So please like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on. This has been fun. Hopefully, I can have return the favor, have you on my channel, or we can collaborate
Absolutely.
in the future. You know.
I'd love to, man. I love talking Giants football with you. It's been so good. I've had some other guests on too, not in a while, but we had Bobby Skinner on.
Yeah.
Joe and I dropped the leash. We had Bobby Skinner on early this year just to talk about like the Giants off season, the previous off season. And I've had a few other people too. Nicky Snacks, he makes appearances on Talking Giants sometimes. We had him on like 2 years ago, and also Joel Yaddo, who I love a lot. He pals around with, and he's on Big Pat Sports Talk. Who's another Big Pat and Joel? Check him out. Big Pat Sports Talk has got a great YouTube channel. He's got like 5 guys with him. I forgot all the names, but I'm familiar with Joel because I had him do a Jim Fossil special with me when Fossil passed away. And those guys are over there. They're all big. You and I like supporters of Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So I love those guys. Really good. But Big Pat Sports Talk, check them out too. But man, I love you. It was great talking Giants football with you. I definitely want to have you on again, man. And I'm telling you, man, like I can't see the season ending, man. I
Let's
just
beat
can't
the
see it
Eagles.
ending just yet. Let's go beat the Eagles. Oh, if any team, please beat the Eagles. I'm with you, man. All right, man. Well, listen, let's sign off. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Any of you watching who haven't, weren't watching the video live, you catch it tomorrow, the day after that, next week. We'd love to hear your feedback. Please give CGF underscore NFL a follow. He's also at Giants Nation Pod, and he's on YouTube, the Giants Nation Podcast. And it's been phenomenal. I'd love to be on the show. And hopefully, we're going back and forth on Twitter soon about the Giants Eagles upset. It'll be awesome.
Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
man. Everybody have a good night. We're signing off from here, and I'll talk to you soon. Go Big Blue.